All right, what it is, you guys, it is your girl Cadillac. Yes, I'm Cadillac Dixon. I'm the Draw My Life Prison Wife. I'm the legally blind artist that is rapping and painting for justice, hoping, girl, to see justice before Jesus comes back. It's your girl Cadillac. Anyways, guys, it is late, last moments of my day off. Then we're gonna get into Tuesday, which I do work, so I'm up in the wee hours of the morning. Y'all do know that the anniversary of Marcello going to trial just passed. The 21 years ago, he went to trial and lost his rigged up trial. That anniversary date was on April the 10th. In the midst of preparing for our granddaughter's first birthday party, me working on her artwork, which I did not get to finish, I possibly am gonna go live after this one, but I'm not even gonna release this one tonight because I just released the live tonight. So this will be content that I'll release while I'm at work tomorrow, girl. So I'm gonna release this one, which is going to be the verdict reading. I was supposed to read that to y'all on the date, like the anniversary, but I don't know. We got sidetracked and all of that. It's a lot going on. And now we get off the cusp of celebrating Princess's first birthday, first the anniversary of Marcello leaving, being snatched from our family due to his wrongful conviction. Our daughter at that time was only 9 months old. 9 months when he lost that trial, that rigged up a trial that was not even fair nor just. And now we have a granddaughter that is a little bit older than our daughter was when he lost trial, and he's still not due and set to be free until the year of 2039, which our granddaughter will then be almost 17 years old. So he's not only gonna, he had his generation snatched with his daughter, snatched from him wrongfully. Now he's gonna miss, he's already missing his granddaughter growing up. Already missed the first year. Like, that's why this time is so detrimental. We need to get him home now. Like, now, enough of his life has been taken. Like, even if he committed these crimes that they allege, I mean, the sentence is ridiculous. 40 years. That's a ridiculous sentence. And you don't have any fingerprints, you don't have DNA, you don't have the weapon that you're charging him with. You have nothing but that conflicting evidence from the officers to your alleged victims. Nobody coincides with nobody. And you're still just keeping him and keeping him. 21 years is enough. He's done his time. Let him go. Let him go. Let him have some of his life. So due to so much going on, and plus our daughter is about to graduate. He's missed everything. Her first words, first steps, kindergarten graduation, high school graduation, empty seat there for him. And now, y'all know I started that petition in 2020, pleading for y'all to please sign that petition and help me get him home before our daughter college graduation. But guess what? It's in less than 2 weeks, and he's no ways on his way home unless God has some type of breakthrough just right on the other side of a couple of weeks from now. He's gonna miss her college graduation as well. This is truly a travesty. This is injustice at possibly one of the worst. The worst is, of course, unjustly being outed. But if right up next to being outed is to be wrongfully incarcerated. And some say that that is worse because that's a living jail, like for real. And you're there knowing that you didn't commit the crime to deserve to even be there, but you're there. Okay, so I'm going to quickly I got to get ready for work. I ran, put my clothes in the washer. So I got to hurry up, read this verdict, and then I'm going to jump off this live, go put my clothes, get my clothes out the dryer. I'm sorry. I left them in the dryer drying. Got to go get my clothes out, and then I'll come back and we'll be on a different live though. I'm going to be finishing up Miss Princess's paintings that I did not unfortunately get to finish. I got pretty far along, but I didn't get to finish due to work and everything else. That's one. I hate that I didn't finish it for her. That's two. But Monty wants me to still finish them, and she's gonna frame them for her. She'll have these paintings that her grandmother made her, and that's three. I put in Marcello, his face on the grandpa, my face on the grandma, Prenny's face on Gracie, and then Juju and Araya, my Juju and Rara, my niece and nephew. So we're gonna finish those up. Well, I don't know if I'm ever gonna finish them. Now I don't have to rush though. I could just work on them and we could chop it up, listen to old videos like we like to do. But before we get to the fun stuff, let's hear this heartbreaking verdict. All right, guys, so let's get into it. Grab my coffee. I can turn the ring light on. Y'all know I'm legally blind, so it's hard for me to have that ring light on when I'm close and right up in the light because it really hurts my eyes. Okay, so we're going to read. Oh, I gotta zoom in just a bit, I think. Gosh. That should be good there. Okay, so let's read this verdict. Let me move to the center of the screen. Okay, different laptop. My other laptop went out, going to bed for good. I hope not. But I'm on a different laptop, so let me see if I can zoom in because I cannot see this. Okay, verdict. The court, bring in the jury. Jury enters the courtroom. The court, y'all know, and just in case you forgot, because it's been a little minute since I have worked on the trial, whenever I say the court, because it is written as though it is like a stage play, for me, trials are nothing but stage plays. They are not really there to come to the actual truth. They're just there just to play out, just to keep up that illusion that your rights are being maintained. Okay, so anytime it says the court, it is referring to the judge. Okay, so the court, bring in the jury. Jury enters the courtroom. The court, have you reached a verdict? Juror Lorenzen is spelled Lorenzen, Lorenzen. We have, Your Honor, the juror. If we could hand that to the court deputy. Juror Lorenzen tendered. The court, okay, have the clerk published the verdicts? The court, CR01, and then blah, blah, blah. I guess that's the case number. The court, he can have his seat. The clerk, CR blah, 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 State of Florida versus Marcello Jackson. Verdict as to count 1. Oh my gosh. I can get through this. I got through it on that day. and we're 21 years in on it. So we're at least past that halfway mark of that wrongful conviction. But God forbid we have to play out these other 16 years, but we at least made it halfway. And I told my baby I was gonna ride with him all the way through this. I just didn't think it would last as long, but I was that ride or die for real. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of kidnapping with the intent to commit a felony as charged in the information. Special findings as to firearm, as to count I. We, the jury, find the defendant Marcello Jackson did carry, display, or use or possess a firearm in the commission of the offense. Verdict as to count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of kidnapping with the intent to commit a felony as charged in the... Okay, I'm trying to change pages. Information. Special findings as to firearm, as to count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant Marcello Jackson did carry, display, or use, possess a firearm in the commission of the offense. Verdict as to count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of carjacking with a firearm as charged in the information. Special findings as to firearm, as to count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant, Marcello Jackson, did carry, display, or use, possess a firearm in the commission of the offense. Verdict as to count 4. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of carjacking with a firearm as charged in the information. Special findings as to firearm, as to count 4. We, the jury, find the defendant, Marcello Jackson, did carry, display, use, or possess a firearm in the commission of the offense. Verdict as to count 5. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of attempted robbery with a firearm as charged in the information. Verdict as to count 4. We, the jury, find the defendant. Wait. Oh yeah, it doesn't make sense, but okay. Oh, that's 6, I'm sorry. Verdict as to count 6. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of robbery with a firearm as charged in the information. Special findings as to firearm as to count 6. We, the jury, find the defendant, Marcello Jackson, did carry, display, use, or possess a firearm in the commission of the offense. So say we all dated Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on the 10th day of April, 2002. Robert, I don't want to put the 4 person's full name there. The court, is there a special finding as to count 5? The clerk, they didn't send one back. The court, I'm going to need the jury to go back and fill out this special verdict form as to count 5. Jury deputy, all please rise for the jury. Jury exits the courtroom. The court, defendant will be taken into custody at this time. Ma'am, if you can't control your emotions, you'll have to leave. Ma'am, just leave them there, but take him. Okay, that is not how that went. So court reporter, I'm gonna need you to take an accurate account. I was sitting there as they was reading verdict after verdict, guilty in the highest, and with the weapon. They in no ways proved a weapon. The weapon, escalated Marcello's sentence from being 10 years to being 40 years. They found him guilty with the weapon that never was recovered, never was proven to be had. There's nothing proven there was a weapon but the hearsay. Somebody said there was a weapon. They alleged there was a weapon. But when have you been able to allege there being a weapon but not have any proof to back it up? I have never seen that before. But it happened in Marcello's case. There was nothing to prove that Marcello had any type of weapon whatsoever. And they charged him with that weapon, though. And that weapon, without that weapon, Marcello would have been home almost a decade and a half ago. Just about. Almost a decade and a half ago, Marcello would have been home. Even if it was a wrongful conviction, he still would have been able to do that 10 years and be the heck home. Like, I wouldn't still be using, I wouldn't have used, if he had came home 15 years ago, I am going on 42 years old. I have fought for him since I was 21 years old. That's a long time. That's a long time to fight for anything, let alone fight for a wrongful conviction. So if he had come home 15 years ago, I would have been 32, 27. He could have came home at 27. Our daughter would have been 7 years old. There was still time to salvage. There was still time for us to continue our family, to still have more kids, for him to still be in our daughter's life, for him to not miss her high school graduation, for him not to miss everything in her life. He still would have been home before she even reached middle school. Like, that weapon took it from this to this, and they charged him with it without having a shred of evidence. That's something major, and they shouldn't be able to do that, to charge you when the only way you can be charged with circumstantial evidence. All the evidence around has to point to it being nobody but you. It would have been no other way that it could have happened without Marcello and the weapon. The way that could have, okay, you can be charged with the weapon without recovering the weapon if, say, the person was powed and they had injuries and they either were outed or they were mangled. You don't have the weapon, but something darn sure happened, and it looks like a weapon did it. The way they walked out with not even a hair touched on their head, nothing done to them. Them coming from the club to go get right, not getting right because the cousin runs a darn stop sign, and instead of pulling the heck over, the cousin decides, I'm gonna go off on a high-speed chase because guess what? I have priors. I am out on bond right now. That was the reason that cousin fled the scene. Marcello had no reason to flee the scene. That's why he didn't flee the scene. Everyone, when they tried to lie and said Marcello fled the scene, they were all caught in lies. The evidence proves that Marcello never ran, right? So they were able to take times more of his life by attaching this weapon that they never proved. Okay. We, the jury, find the defendant Marcello Jackson did carry, display, use, possess a firearm in the commission of the offense. So say we all dated Orlando, Orange County, Florida on the 10th day of April 2002. The four-person, and then it says the court, is there a special finding? Oh yeah, we was to the point where the judge says, now it reads in this transcript, ma'am, you're gonna, if you can't control your emotions, you'll have to leave, ma'am. That is not how he said that. So as I'm listening to verdict after verdict, and I'm like, I'm trying to hold it in, I'm like, oh my, oh, that was how I was crying. I wasn't crying out loud, like, but it's emotion you cannot bottle, you can't suppress, you can't hold that in. It's too much. He said, ma'am, if you can't be quiet, I'm gonna have to hold you in contempt of court. That is what he told me, and that is not in this transcript. I remember that day like I'm telling you, some days you will never forget. I remember it like I remember the day my mother passed. That's how life-changing this verdict was to me. Okay, so I illustrated it. Let me show you guys. Project Reach the World is me telling our story through art and through music. There's my illustration that was done in just some crayons and paper. I actually drew this when I was a door greeter at the Super Center. And then in the 2020 shutdown, I took this illustration to Photoshop, edited it, fixed the typography and everything, got it ready so that I could release it in a book format. I want Marcello Jackson's story to be so juvenile that even a child can understand how he's wrongfully convicted. And then that's when they said, take him into custody. As the police started to handcuff him, he looked over at me and said, can I please just give her a hug? They said, no, you're coming with us. And that's when he was being taken in. That's me down there crying, whimpering basically. And the judge was like, ma'am, if you cannot be quiet, I'm going to hold you in contempt of court. That is what he said, but they blocked that out. And that is where, after court, after they put me out. So I'm going to continue to read what happened after I left, but this is me exiting. I ran out the courtroom and I ran into the street. And that's when I laid there in the street until I looked up and I seen Marcello's acting public defender, the crime specialist, come out. And he walked towards me, and before I can even open my mouth, he said, do you know why they sentenced him? Why they convicted him? And I said, yeah, because he was black. And he said, yeah, truly, that's the only reason. See, that's me talking to him. He said, now you're going to have to find somebody that is going to fight for him, that's going to fight for his life. And I did not know that I became the one that would fight for his life. I essentially became that lawyer, not really a lawyer, but his advocate. Not just his wife, but his advocate. And this has been my life, my life's journey, and I guess it will be until he's free. Okay, so let's get back to the verdict. And if I have a little time, I could read sentencing because the verdict is so short. Okay, just leave them here. Just take him into custody. Is he entitled to pre-sentence investigation? Mr. Sims, he is, the court. And would you like the pre-sentence investigation? Mr. Sims, yes, sir. The court. All right, then I'm going to do this. I think we can go ahead and address the one carjacking count at this time. I agree with your assertion that there can only be one carjacking. And what I'll do is I don't think we're gonna, see, he just keeps pausing. What you wanted was to merge those into one count and dismiss one count based upon double jeopardy. So I'll let you pick one. It really does not matter. Court deputy, Your Honor, they're ready to come back. The court, all right. And let's go ahead and wait till they're done. Ms. Brennan, who was the assistant state attorney back then. Count 3, the court. I'll go ahead and dismiss count 3. I'm going to adjudicate the defendant guilty of all remaining counts, revoke the bond, remand him into custody. You can bring in the jury, the clerk, no bond status, no bond. The jury enters the courtroom. Ladies and gentlemen, you have reached a special verdict as to count 5. Yes, we have. Does either side, let's publish this and then go ahead and publish that. The clerk. Special findings as to firearm as to count 5 in the state of Florida versus Marcello Jackson. We, the jury, find that the defendant Marcello Jackson did carry, display, use, or possess a firearm in the commission of the offense. So say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on the 10th day of April 2002, and then the 4 persons' name. Does either side wish the jury be polled? No, Your Honor. Why the heck didn't they poll the jury? I wish we could know that information. Like, when they poll the jury, you can sometimes find out, like, how was he convicted? Was it 2-8? Was it 2? Mr. Sims, no, Your Honor. Ms. Brennan, no, Your Honor. The court. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to conclude your service as jurors in this case. I have a final instruction for you, and that is, for the years we've relied upon you to make difficult decisions for us, and because we give you that responsibility, there's legal privileges that go along with that. And that is that you have an absolute right not to discuss the case or your deliberations. None of the participants in this trial will come to you seeking any comment from you. I don't know that anyone else will, quite frankly, but I'm someone where if someone were to do that, it's your option. You may discuss the case if you want, or you have the absolute legal right not to discuss the case or your deliberations. At this time, we're going to send you back to the jury room one final time. I'm going to meet with you briefly and thank you for your participation in this process with us. And then we're going to let you go about your personal affairs with our thanks. All rise, the jury. Jury exits the courtroom, the court. Okay, thank you, everybody. Got the sentencing date? Mr. Sims, no, sir. We didn't announce it yet. May 23rd at 9:30. So that was the day he was sentenced to 40 freaking years. All right. Okay, folks. We'll be in recess until then. Until tomorrow morning, we'll start another trial at that time. The clerk. Judge, as to count 3, you're dismissing it now? I'm dismissing it now based upon double jeopardy, whereupon the proceedings were concluded. Wow. Oh, God. I hate even going back looking at this stuff. But I'm doing it because I'm trying to fight for him. It literally takes me, it's hard reading this stuff. Sentencing, let's see how long sentencing is. How many pages? How about in this video, I'll just read my testimony. Keita Dixon, having been first duly sworn under oath, has examined and testified as following by Mr. Sims. Can you tell us your name? My name is Keita Dixon. And then he has me spell it out. What's your relationship to Mr. Marcello Jackson? I'm his fiance. Do you... Ooh, they got typos. Girl, the graphic designer in me? It says, do you chair a mutual child? Do you share a mutual child? Yes. How many? One. And maybe a second. Maybe a second. Maybe a second. You wanted to address the judge about... Now, the issue was about that. I literally thought that I was pregnant at that time. I was having the same feelings that I had when I had money, but I was not pregnant. I thought I was. So that's why it's that back and forth. Kind of wish I was, because then I would have at least had my 2 children, right? That could have been my little Marquito that we were supposed to have. But no, that's why it goes back and forth. So it says, you share a mutual child, and I say yes. And then he says, how many? I say 1 and maybe a second. And then he questions, he says, maybe a second. And I say, maybe a second. That lawyer, that crime specialist lied. Like he was a liar, just like Medea said. Like, he told them that he did not know that Marcello had children at all, a child at all. He didn't know he was a father. When money, I came to every, and y'all can imagine, I came to every single meeting that Marcello had with his lawyer. And money also came. And money was all up that man's leg. She would be sitting on his desk messing with his little things he had on his whatnots on his desk, getting under the desk, crawling up his leg. And I'm like, Money, stop it. He's like, oh, she's okay. And he had the nerve. And then that statement when he said, kiss your daughter goodbye. Because Marcello said he could not take 17 years for something he didn't do. And his last statement before this trial was, well, then kiss your daughter goodbye. But then he goes on to say he didn't know Marcello had a child. Wow, really? Okay, question. You wanted to address the judge about the sentencing. Why don't you go ahead and let him know a little bit about Marcello and what you think a proper sentence would be? Marcello is a great father. He was there for the beginning when I first told him about the baby. He went to every doctor's visit, even after he got him a job, so he could provide for us a place to stay. We were saving our money and everything. He was there. Anything that he had to go to, he went to all her visits, everything. Ain't that crazy? I just wanted some kind of sentence where he can still be in her life, because after 10 years, she wouldn't even know who he is. I just wanted a chance for her to grow up with her father. Mr. Sims, thank you, Miss Dixon. Miss Brennan, do you have any questions? Miss Brennan, no. Mr. Sims? Mr. Jackson, would you like to make a statement to his honor? Marcello Jackson, defendant, having been duly sworn under oath, was examined and testified as follows. The defendant, I would like to really, they got so many typos. This thing said, I would like to fake this time. Maybe that was prophetic though. I would like to take this time to apologize to my lady, my daughter, my mother, and my family for the incident that took place on that particular day that I really didn't have no dealings with, but still being charged with. The court, you're innocent? That's what you're telling me? The defendant, Basically, I want to have been first duly sworn. I want to take this time to tell them I apologize for being at the wrong place at the wrong time and ask you be lenient on my sentencing. The court, Mr. Sims, you're aware your client already filed motion to appeal. Mr. Sims, I saw that today and I doubt that it's going to pass muster since he has nothing to appeal when he filed that. See how he just working all against Marcello. I saw that today and I doubt that it's going past muster since he has nothing to appeal when he filed that. I've got an affidavit of insolvency that I'm going to have him sign, and then I will file the proper paperwork by Mr. Sims. Is there anything else you would like to say to the judge, Mr. Jackson? I would like to ask if you can grant me a 45-day furlough to get my bills in order. The court. Anything else? I can't think what else I have to say. Mr. Sims, on Mr. Jackson's behalf, you did have the opportunity to be present at the trial, and the evidence and the inconsistencies, that the evidence and the oddness of the actual actions of the alleged victim in this matter. I'm not going to bore you with the rehash of my closing, which tried to point out all those inconsistencies. So many inconsistencies that really do make sense, and they're just marking it off like it's nothing. The jury has spoken and we realize that, but I am in total agreement with this PSI preparer with respect to page 7 in their alternative recommended deposition, that this young man is savable, if that's a word, that he has something to give back to the community in a positive manner, that he has been a good provider and a very hard worker and a very responsible young man with respect to his new child. And for all those reasons, I'm asking the court, follow the alternative recommended deposition, either as under youthful offender or downward departure type situation. That's when they were recommending, because Marcello was only 19, to just do boot camp, 9 months of boot camp, and they said no. The judge said no. I do know that Mr. Jackson scores 208.65 months to life on these cases, but we are requesting that you follow the recommendation, the alternative recommended deposition for the probation and parole officer. These cases are difficult, the court. These cases are difficult in the sense that you have someone very young that you are sentencing. They threw him away like a piece of freaking trash. On the other hand, I have considered the testimony, and I have to draw my conclusion that these guys had every intention on illing these guys. If they simply wanted to rob these folks, these two guys, and take the car, they could have done that in the parking lot of the club. That could have been freaking proven though. Why didn't they have the surveillance pulled? Why did they hide that? You could have proved that. This wouldn't be a shadow of a doubt now. Now we have to look at it as a shadow of a doubt. Because we don't have no surveillance. We don't have anything that proves that took place in that parking lot. So now we have a shadow of a doubt. But you could have proved that. They could have proved it beyond a shadow. If they had proved it beyond a shadow of a doubt, I wouldn't be up here fighting y'all. I wouldn't be up here fighting. They in no ways did anything to, you have surveillance tapes. You lied and said you didn't. But if Marcello was in fact in that parking lot and took them in that vehicle, that would be on camera. And that would prove your case. And that would shut me up, shut anybody else up that ever in life said free Marcello Jackson because he's innocent. We couldn't have said that because we would have had surveillance. Here's the surveillance, Ms. Dixon. You can't dispute this. But they chose not to bring nothing. Why would you choose to bring nothing if everything is in your court? That's because it doesn't prove that. It wouldn't have proved that. What it would have proved that Marcello was never there. You never caught him on your surveillance. That's why you couldn't bring your surveillance tapes, because he wasn't on them. He wasn't in that parking lot. That's why. But the victims testified at trial that they were told they were being taken to a lake and going to be ill. And I think that's a fair assessment of what the evidence showed. There was no freaking evidence in this case, because otherwise everything could have been concluded at the club. These guys weren't putting up any fight. They were going to give them what they had. The evidence is not that Mr. Jackson was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was the one with the GUN. Where is it then? He couldn't have got rid of it because he didn't run. He was arrested with the car. So where's your GUN? But it says that was the one with the GUN. He was the one making these threats. And if you commit violent kidnapping and carjacking and robberies, then you suffer the consequences of it. Your Honor, Mr. Sims says, Your Honor, the court, it's my turn. You had your turn. The family asked for a second chance, and I understand that. And I certainly, if it were my child, I would be in that same position, in that same posture, I'm sorry. What a second chance is a relative concept. He faces life on these cases. And if I give him life, he serves life. And he never would be eligible for parole. They don't even have parole in Florida. And the only reason I'm not going to give him life is so that he has that possibility of getting out and enjoying some portion of the life. It's ironic to me that the only people he didn't apologize to were the victims in this case, but that's the whole point. They're not the victims, he is. Marcello's the actual victim in this case. They're not the victims. That's why would Marcello come up with some random apology to some dudes he didn't do anything to? They were in that car trying to go with that driver to go get substances. That's what they were in that car for. They were not kidnapped. They were not carjacked. There's no evidence concluding that. There's no evidence corroborating that. There's no evidence of nothing. Their fabricated story and Marcello's story both could be concluded to by the lack of evidence. So anybody's story could be right. There's nothing saying this happened or that happened because you have no evidence. Okay. Ironic to me, the only people he didn't apologize to were the victims in the case. But he maintains his innocence. The jury didn't agree. The one housekeeping matter is, I know on the judgment that count 5 reflects a conviction of robbery with a firearm. I believe that should be attempted robbery. The score sheet is correct. Scored it as an attempted robbery. The judgment, the court, the judgment, we entered reflected that as robbery. Wait, want to make sure I have that right. It's count 5 is attempted robbery with a firearm, and the judgment says robbery with a firearm. Count 6 as to robbery with a firearm. So we're going to need to amend that judgment that had been entered to properly reflect what he was convicted of. Mr. Jackson, on count 1, kidnapping with intent to commit felony. I'm going to sentence you to 40 years in the Department of Corrections with a 10-year minimum mandatory sentence. On count 2, kidnapping with intent to commit felony, I'm going to sentence you to 40 years in the Department of Corrections, concurrent with the sentence in count 1, with minimum mandatory of 10 years. Count 3, carjacking with the firearm, I'm going to, Mr. Sims, I believe count 3 was dismissed by this court. That's right. Count 4 would be the next one. Count 3, you dismissed as double jeopardy. So we have count 4, correct. This is one car. That was my ruling on that. 40 years in the Department of Corrections on that count, on 4. And I think there's a 10-year minimum mandatory on that. The attempted robbery with the firearm would be punishable, I think, up to 30. Is that correct? Ms. Brennan, I believe that's correct. 30 years in the Department of Corrections with credit, for there is a credit time served on all of these, with the 10-year minimum mandatory. Count 6, robbery with the firearm. I'm going to sentence you to 40 years in the Department of Corrections with a 10-year minimum mandatory. All those sentences will run concurrently. That is the only saving grace in Marcello's sentence, that concurrent sentence, because without it, that would have been 40 plus 40 plus 40 plus 40 plus 30. 21 years in on this wrongful conviction. With his gain time, we looking at about 2039, I'm coming home. If I don't gain traction on this Free Marcello movement. Whew. 30 years in the Department of Corrections with the credit. There is a credit for time served on all of these with the 10-year minimum mandatory. Count 6, robbery with the firearm. I'm going to sentence you to 40 years in the Department of Corrections with the 10-year minimum mandatory. All those sentences will run concurrent with each other. There is $278 in court costs. There's a $40 DERP fee. I'm inclining to impose lien for the services of your lawyer in the amount of $1,000. However, before I do that, you've got the right to a hearing. You can contest the reasonableness of that fee, or if you feel that the fee is reasonable, you can waive or give up the right to a hearing. Do you wish to have a hearing on that? The defendant. Say that one more time, please. The court. Yes, I'm inclining to impose a lien that I'm going to reduce it to a judgment for the service of Mr. Sims, representing you in this case. And that amount would be $1,000. You're entitled to a hearing to challenge whether $1,000 would be reasonable as an attorney fee in this type of case, or if you think that $1,000 is a reasonable fee, you don't have to have a hearing, and you can waive or give it up. Do you want to have a hearing on that? The defendant, that's fine, no hearing. The court, all right, those will be reduced to a judgment. I don't believe there is any restitution involved. Ms. Brennan, $60. That represented what? The court says. The money taken from one of the victims. That was Marcello's own money. The only victim in this case is Marcello. They're a victim because they weren't able to go get their substances. The court. Was there any damage to their car? Ms. Brennan, no. Mr. Sims, it might be in evidence, but Ms. Brennan, it is in evidence. It can be no restitution. Judge, because they did get the money off the defendant, the court. All right, I won't order any restitution in this case. Anything further from the state? Ms. Brennan, nothing further. The court, anything further from the defense? Mr. Sims, Your Honor, I'm having Mr. Jackson sign affidavit of insolvency for the purpose of appeal. The court, then I will appoint the public defender to represent. That man did zero, even less than this man. Advise him that he has the right to appeal the judgment and the sentence of the court, and any appeal must be in writing within 30 days. If you can't afford a lawyer, one BS ass lawyer will be, I'm sorry guys, you better afford a lawyer. You bet, if you ever sit in this hot seat, you better sell everything you got, bring all your family together, get all of your, go take a loan, do whatever you got to do. Do not go into that courtroom with a public defender. And I'm sorry if I offend anybody that's a public defender. Your life is on the line. That is like going into an operating room where your life is on the line and you going with somebody that just graduated from school. No, you need to have the top surgeon on your case. Do not go, or if you, and now this is not legal advice, this is watch your A advice. Cover your A advice. If you cannot afford to go into court with a paid lawyer, don't go to court. You're going to have to take that plea. Because they ain't going to do nothing but screw you over. They work hand in hand. Hand in hand. Okay. If you can't afford a lawyer, one BSA lawyer will be appointed to represent you. That actually works for us, but we're going to act like they work for you. They don't say that, but I inserted that. That's Cliff Notes, right? For your purpose of appeal. And we will go ahead and appoint the public defender for the purposes of that appeal. Mr. Sims, you'll need to prepare the initial paperwork, whereupon the sentence proceedings were concluded. State of Florida, County of Orange. The reporter, and his closing, and it was over. Marcello's life was over at that point, too. Sent him away and threw him away like he was nothing. That judge could have sat up there and seen that. Where's the evidence? None of that chit chat means anything. Where's the evidence? You're charging him with the weapon. Where is your weapon? Or where's your proof that there was a weapon? I mean hard proof, not somebody saying there was a weapon. I could say there was a weapon. She could say there was a weapon. He could say there was a weapon. Where's your evidence that there was a weapon? Where's your evidence that that car was taken? Where is it? Because they didn't provide anything. And anybody just coming in on this video, y'all can go to the free Marcello Jackson playlist and I read straight through this court case. None of it makes sense. None of it. And the so ironic thing was to sit through it and hear all the conflicts, all the back and forth, none of it making sense. And to be like, how in the jail did they come to a guilty? You're supposed to have no doubt in your mind when you come to guilty. How did they come to guilty? Because this case leaves nothing but doubt in your mind. It doesn't make sense at all. So how did they come to guilty? And they all agreed, guilty, guilty, and fast as heck. They deliberated less than an hour. They thought about Marcello's life for less than an hour. Lord, I pray that you can just free Marcello from this sentence, this wrongful conviction. And Lord, please free me from it. This case has had me bound for over 2 decades now, and I need my freedom. I need my freedom. I need my family's freedom. Oh boy. All right, y'all. I hope I still have the energy and still got my mind in the right place to go on and finish Miss Princess. I hate going back to that place. I hate that place. I hate that place. Here we were supposed to be enjoying our new baby. Instead of that, we were dragged through hell. Instead of being able to be a family and raise our child together, we were dragged through hell. Alright guys, I'm gonna end it right here. It's your girl Cadillac. I ain't gonna laugh at the end.